The mission was very nominal for 48 hours. I was off the console at home when the event happened. In fact, if I remember, I was shaving at the time, and my boss called me. My boss's name is Arnie Aldridge. He worked in one of the back rooms here, and said, "John, these guys are chasing a problem out here, and they think it's some kind of an instrumentation problem because the problem doesn't all correlate and make sense. And since you're also one of the things you do back in the office is you're the instrumentation expert, which is the remote reading of all the vehicle measurements that we get on telemetry. I need to ask you your opinion on something." And I said, "Well, okay, Arnie, give me some readouts." I said, "Go behind the GNC console operator and call up display so-and-so and give me some readouts." He'd read me out a few parameters, and then I'd say, "Well, go behind this certain other console. Go behind the ECOM console and read me out these kind of parameters." What I was looking for was patterns. Instrumentation failures, when they happen, fail in patterns. And parameters that normally have nothing to do with each other, or measurements that have nothing to do with each other, come through a common communication system. So there's single points where they get aggregated together. And if you have failures in those single points, they aggregate into weird combinations. But knowing what the failure modes are and the detailed design of the circuitry, you can understand whether or not it's a real problem or a measurement problem that has caused a problem. Well, he went through the sequence, read a bunch of measurements to me, and I said, "Well, it's not that. Read me some more." I said, "Read me these." I said, "Arnie, my conclusion is I'm not sure what has happened there, but for one thing is for sure, that is a real problem. That is not an instrumentation or measurement perceived problem. Now, that's a real problem. I'll be right there, but tell those guys it's not an instrumentation problem. That's a real problem they're chasing. I'm not sure what happened, but I'll be there." So I jumped in my clothes and came onto the console, not onto the console, from that point, and rather than plugging into the console, I started just walking behind each operator, looking at what they were chasing, what indications they were looking at, what they thought the problem was, in each of their own individual area, because they were pursuing their own anomaly, their own perception of what caused the anomaly, and its own solution. So I just kind of came in and surveyed the room to see what I could correlate that made sense out of the whole thing.